Hello and welcome to Not Another Real Estate Podcast, the very first episode of Not Another Real Estate Podcast. I'm Dan Riendeau, and I don't know anything about real estate, but luckily I do know quite a bit about podcasting. I've been a radio podcast host for many years. For this podcast, I've teamed up with Brian Davis, who does know a lot about real estate. Hey, Brian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Why don't you talk a little bit about your background in the real estate business?
Yeah, so I'm a real estate investor. Started out as an agent when I got out of college in 2004 and became a real estate broker in 2006. I worked in REO, bank-owned real estate for a few years in there until 2011. We bought our first property. It was a fix and flip. And ever since that property, it's basically been off to the races. And 2015, we ended up buying 15 properties that year, fix and flips, single family properties. And then it transitioned into an attempt to buy 100 plus properties, kind of influenced by some other podcasters. And that's what I've been working on over the past 2 years now.
Can you talk about ramping up your business like that, going from, one home to 15 homes, then to 100? That's a huge scaling up.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about why you wanted to do that and I guess how you were able to pull that off?
In 2011, we bought our first property and we ended up partnering with my father-in-law and we made a great profit on that property. It was a $70,000 purchase. We bought it on a short sale. We put $15,000 into that home. We ended up selling it for $150,000. And so we profited, on that little investment, we made over $50,000 that we split with our partner, which was my father-in-law at the time. And ever since that property, we were hooked on the fix and flip model. And so it was basically, we just tried to buy as many homes as we could. And in order for us to do that, it was a combination of our own money. We found a hard money lender, some private money, and we would partner with whoever we could partner with. So that eventually got us to about 15 properties in a year in 2015. I really wanted to take it to the next level from 15 properties a year. So in 2016, I set the goal to do 100 properties a year, and I wanted to give myself 3 years to do that. So when we initially, when you first come up with that goal and you start working in that direction, the first, it's really a matter of solving a lot of problems along the way. And the first big problem was we would need funding, we would need money in order for us to buy 100 plus properties. That was really the first thing that we ran at was...
Yeah, that's got to be the biggest hurdle, is to try and find enough capital to be able to scale up to 100 homes. Not an easy task, I'm guessing.
If you have an average purchase price and rehab cost of, say, $125,000, 100 properties, that would come out to, I think, maybe $12 million. And if there's a 6-month turn time, you'd have about $6 million at any given time you'd need to raise. So luckily, after a few weeks of looking for private money, I ran across a private equity firm and I went in, I met with them, I sat down, I explained what I was looking to do. And after a few more meetings with them, it became clear that they were going to help me and fund the business. And so I basically found a partner in the mix. Once I settled on them as the lender, I moved into that office and really got to work on looking towards acquiring 100 properties per year. And so that's kind of the journey I've been on over the past year and a half now, is ramping up to 100 plus properties. And we've been doing this in other states. We've been wholesaling. We've been virtually rehabbing properties, virtual wholesaling, and we still buy in Connecticut and we fix and flip in Connecticut. But I have gotten a good lesson on virtually doing a lot of these rehabs in other states without ever seeing the properties.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that because, fix and flipping in real estate is a tried and true method that's been going on for a lot of years. But like every other industry, technology is changing everything, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So in order for us to ramp up, we needed to become very methodical. We needed to put systems in place in order for us to do a lot of volume. When we were doing in 2015, when we were doing 15 properties that year, we had 12 at one point going on at the same time. And I was I'm the general contractor, the guy finding the properties. I'm the broker selling the properties. Me and my wife are staging the properties. And I'm basically involved in all facets of the business. And in order for us to greatly increase volume, we needed to set up systems for acquisition, set up systems for the project management, find the right people, have a good process in place for everything we do. And so the first order of business is really determining the acquisition side and becoming very methodical with the properties that we're buying. We outsource a lot of our work, and I use a website called Upwork a lot. And we find freelancers there to develop software, create websites, help make phone calls. There's a million different things that you can outsource online. And one of those things was creating software to help us with the acquisition side of the business. So we ended up basically taking all of the properties from the market, bringing them into a database, and then having somebody create a front end where we can easily manage those properties. We can easily make offers on those properties. We can evaluate those properties by looking at different analytics, different numbers. We will look at the estimated value of a property or the median value in relation to its current list price to highlight which properties we would like to buy, to highlight which properties we need to look at. And by becoming very automated and systematic and methodical with the properties that are on the market, it allows us to greatly increase our efficiency when acquiring properties.
So you're basically have created your own piece of software that's sucking all the data out of the MLS database and boiling it down to the kinds of properties that you're going to be most interested in. So you don't have to wade through, hundreds, thousands of different listings that you wouldn't be interested in the first place. Do I have that right?
We're able to bring all the properties into the system so that we can eliminate properties we never want to see again. If anybody ever uses the MLS, they would understand how they have to keep looking at the same homes over and over again. And it's very inefficient. And, if somebody's looking on realtor.com or Zillow to find properties, it's a very inefficient process. So the most efficient way to do this is to bring all the properties into a database so that you can methodically go through them and you can discard properties you never want to see again. You can flag properties that you want to keep on your radar, or you can put offers on properties that you want to make offers on, and you want to automate the process of delivering these emails and these contracts to real estate agents, and you want to move as fast as you can. And, one of the best ways to get a good deal is to be there before everybody else. And the best way to beat people to a property is to have good numbers and to have some automation in terms of the delivery of an offer. Within this software, we've also built in an automated trigger where if a price changes, that offer is delivered to that agent again. So you never forget a property. The agent never forgets that you're interested in it, and you don't let things slip through the cracks. So that's really the reason for this podcast, is that I ended up creating this software, and I realized it would be a lot easier for me to scale my real estate business by finding partners or by licensing this software out to other agents. And it fills this basic need for investors to be very systematic in the acquisition side.
I was just thinking, for those real estate agents who are listening to this, the investors that are wading through the MLS database on a daily basis, it's got to be an insane headache. So to have something that's automating a lot of that work for you has got to save you, a lot of work during the week, I got to imagine.
Because we're looking at, in Connecticut, I'll have 20,000 properties for sale. Really, where do you begin in identifying the properties that are most qualified to make an offer on? So by looking at different numbers and metrics, we can quickly search for properties and identify properties that are outliers in terms of, the list price in relation to the median price or in relation to its estimated value for that neighborhood. if a property is listed for $100,000 and the median is $200,000, that difference of $100,000 is a pretty big indicator of a good deal, of good value. And then on the flip side to that, if you have a property listed for $400,000 and the median is $200,000, that doesn't really signal a great deal or much room for profit. So just on the most basic level, to be able to quickly look through a large set of data and be able to highlight properties that appear to be the best value, it gives you a better place to focus your energy so that you can more efficiently find properties, make offers, and bring those properties into your business so that you can fix them or rent them or do whatever. This is really an introduction to myself into the real estate community, and the software it's in beta right now. So some investors are going to be able to use that software for free, give us feedback, and others will partner with, and we'll be able to arrange something where they can use that software. I know that there is a need for it because this software was developed because it didn't exist and I needed it. I'm the guy that's looking to go from, 15 properties to 50 to 100. And I have 3 children. I have a lot of other things going on with the business. So I need to be very systematic. And the software is basically just developed out of my need for it. And it feels like a really great tool to be able to offer to other investors. And it's not for everybody. It's not for the beginner. And I'm sure there's other guys that might have some internal sort of program or software, or guys are set in their ways. I've given it a lot of thought, and I don't think there's a better way to handle the data and to be more automated on the acquisition side.
The big part of the podcast is going to be tracking your journey in the real estate investing community while you develop this software. But that's not the only reason you wanted to start it. You want to offer some more to the listeners. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like, what do you want to accomplish over the next year, let's say, of this podcast?
Yeah. So I guess the need for a podcast for me is I've listened to thousands of podcasts over the years. That's been the most helpful of knowledge along my journey. And it feels like with a podcast, it allows me to give back to the community, which has really provided a great deal to me just through free podcasts without having to pay for knowledge and information. It also allows people to know that I'm the real estate investor in Connecticut flipping houses. So if everybody knows me, I provide good value, good content, then I could give back to the community. But it also serves this purpose of letting everybody know that I am in Connecticut. I'm looking for partners, and we are, the private equity firm that I partner with, they're looking for partners on their commercial side. They buy large multifamily commercial, and it just seems like a good idea for me to start something, give away as much value as I can, and become part of the community. And then it also serves that, it's self-serving in that I can drive some traffic back to our software and get users involved with it. And then the more users we have, the more apt I am to build out that software so that it works better for me in my own state and for our own local area. So it kind of helps everybody if I create a software solution that makes sense for guys that are looking to buy a lot of properties.
Do you want to leap right into the news section?
Yeah, sure.
I'm kind of interested to hear your take on a lot of these stories that I found, and kind of segueing off of our discussion about technology changing the real estate industry. This really caught my eye. Lennar is investing in notarized. Talk to me a little bit about the notary part of the business. I have to imagine trying to get to the notary's office at the right time is a huge pain in the ass. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, it was. I partnered with a private equity firm here, and they have notaries in the office. We buy a lot of properties out of state that we never see, and we'll do a lot of virtual wholesaling and virtual rehabbing. And we never go to the closing table, so we will buy properties. Somebody here in the office will notarize those documents. We'll send them overnight. that's made life a lot easier.
When you were starting up and coming, I bet you'd want to have had this service, this product that's called Notarize. It's a platform that offers electronic notary services via webcam. And they've just got $20 million in funding from Lenara private equity firm.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those brilliant ideas that, again, takes a problem that I'm sure many real estate agents and investors have had trying to get to the notary on time. When you can just do it on the webcam, I got to imagine that's going to be
Yeah, that would make life a lot easier, especially for guys. There's people that travel, they go overseas. There's virtual wholesalers, virtual rehabbers, everything that, my whole battle has been how do we automate the business, and how do we become more productive, and how do we spend less time doing things that are not as important. And, going to the bank to get documents notarized or having to find somebody to notarize some documents is a really inefficient way to close a real estate deal. So that really goes hand in hand with the direction that we're moving in is, how do we become more systematic? How do we become more efficient?
This other piece that I found, Realology funding a company called OJO Labs. So Realology, which owns some of the nation's biggest real estate groups, including Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, Century 21, Sotheby's International, participated in this funding round of this company called OJO Labs. So it's based in Austin, and the company's OJO digital assistant uses artificial intelligence to answer real estate related questions and deliver real-time market data via a mobile app. Anything that seems to have artificial intelligence in front of it seems to be able to score all the venture capital funding these days.
Yeah, we've started using AI and machine learning within our software. We were making so many offers on properties that we had this huge pool of data for offer data. And I ended up on Upwork. I found a machine learning expert, and he was able to write a script that takes all of our data and it predicts what my offer would be on a property. And it's amazing how close it is to what I would bid. And I guess he got like a 92% or 95%. I'm not exactly certain what that percentage reflects, but.
So that's just to get this straight here. It follows your bids for a while, the machine does, and then it gets so good at predicting what you would do, it'll start to do the bidding for you, so you don't even have to do it?
Right. Well, we don't just blindly bid, but it gives you kind of a baseline of what the computer would believe you would bid. And it's closer than anybody I've ever attempted to train at getting a number. It comes so much closer than anybody else. And it also makes me second guess myself sometimes because
Wow.
It's so close and it's so good to replicating my pattern and my behavior.
Impressive. That's really cool. Well, Brian, I think that wraps up our first episode. How do you think it went?
It's probably pretty boring, I would imagine.
I think you did pretty good, and I think it's going to get better as we go along. You've talked a little bit with me off air about what you want to do for the coming episodes, maybe an episode about staging, how to get that home ready for a big sale, and about how to really use the MLS database to achieve some success. So what else do you want to maybe hit up in the next few weeks?
Yeah, so I think we were going to just try to focus on interviewing other people, and then maybe we can bring in some comments and opinions on that. I think it would help some listeners a lot. And maybe there actually is somebody that connects with us that is interested in using technology and automation and coming up with better systems and a better process to run their real estate business so that they're more effective and more efficient with what they do with their day.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, Brian. We'll see you next week.
Cool. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.